A minute to Okay, good evening members and welcome to this meeting of Full Council. I am Councillor Justin Wrench, Chairman of the Council, and I will be chairing this meeting. Members, you may have noticed that there's been a slight change to the top table. This is in order to allow space for the paperwork necessary for the management of this meeting, and Vice Chairman Councillor Lynn Walters has agreed to step away at this time from the top tables. We are incredibly grateful to her and we will now be able to manage this meeting without fear of Councillor Walters or Dan falling off the edge. We can all agree that this disruption to the meeting that we can do without. Please can I remind everyone that this meeting is being webcast via the YouTube channel as usual, so please can everyone make sure that their mobile phones and devices are switched to silent to avoid any unnecessary disruptions. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, and I would be grateful therefore if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issue being considered. If members wish to speak this evening, please can you indicate by clearly raising your hand. Please note that we are not expecting a fire alarm. However, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits and assemble in the car park. I will now proceed to the first item of business, agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Mark Holtz, Councillor Dennis Abraham, Councillor Anne Hooks, Councillor Joe Beavis and Councillor Tom Walsh. Do we have any other apologies? I don't believe. I think everybody else is here, is that correct?
No, Chairman, I notice. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now proceed to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. So do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest or non-registrable interests that they wish to declare this evening? And if so, please can you state the item and the nature of your interest? Councillor Sphere.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to declare an interest, other registrable interest. No, sorry, it's not another registrable interest. Another interest because I believe there's a statement being made tonight by Councillor Spray with regards to Rivenhall, and of course my other interests are all declared and registered in that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Abbott.
I will declare an interest as a member of the LPC, Mr. Chairman, item 9, just for clarity, but I'll stay, but I won't take part or vote in the decision.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Chairman. I declare an interest in the statement being made by Councillor Spray. I will leave the room when she makes that statement, as I am on that committee that makes the decisions at DNR on county. And I also declare that I am a member of the local plan committee and I will not take any part in that procedure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spray.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I will declare an interest as a member of the local plan committee and actually the chair of that committee in item 9, the members allowance scheme, and I too will not take part or vote in that item. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman. Likewise, I declare an interest in the same item as a member of the local plan subcommittee and will not take any part in that debate or vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. Likewise, item number 9 on the agenda this evening, as a member of the local plan subcommittee, I will remain, but I will not vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
The officer's advice then, the same as the others. So am I right that I can remain but not vote? Is that the advice?
Okay.
Councillor Martin, if you wish to not participate in the item for the IRP recommendation on the minor SRA for the local plan subcommittee, you can remain in the chamber if you wish.
Whether you just choose to take part in the debate and vote, that is a matter for you. So if you wish to abstain when the chairman calls abstention, then that is how you need to indicate if that is your so wish.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Monday.
I'm a member of the Local Plan Subcommittee. I'll stay in the chamber, but won't take part in the debate.
Thank you. Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you very much. Can I declare same as Councillor Monday and those proceeding? Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Parker.
Yes, also I'm a member of the Local Plan Subcommittee. I will remain and vote on, I'll remain and debate on item 9, but I won't vote on that later.
Councillor Butland.
Yes, same item. I will need to take part in the debate because the paper is in my name, so I will need to propose that. Okay.
Thank you. Understood. And Councillor Coleridge.
Thank you, Chair. Can I also declare an interest as a member of the Local Plan Subcommittee? I'll remain in the chamber and not take part in the debate. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Chair. I've substituted on a few occasions on the Local Plan Subcommittee and will be substituting in further. I will stay in the chamber, but won't take part in the vote.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Finkham.
Yes, I'll remain. I'm a member of the Local Plan Subcommittee. I'll remain. I won't take part in the debate and I won't vote.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Wright.
Like most of the others, I'm subs on the local plan and I will remain but not vote.
Thank you. And Councillor Moya Thorogood.
I'm a sub on the local plan group, so I will stay and I will vote.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. All right, and back to Councillor Schwer.
Thank you, Chairman. I think as a vast volume of people who are substituting to the local plan, I also substitute from time to time on the local plan, so I shall remain in the chamber but not vote.
Thank you. I think that's us done. That must be the longest start to a meeting we've had. But no, thank you, everybody. It's better to over-register than under-register, so thank you for your honesty there. And we can now move on to agenda item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. So we're asked to approve the minutes of the annual general meeting of full council held on the 2nd of June 2025, which have been circulated to members and published on the council's website. Please can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record? Councillor Abbott, and a seconder, Councillor Butland, thank you. The minutes have been moved and seconded as an accurate record. All those in favour, please indicate. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. The minutes are approved. Just bear with me a moment while I sign those this evening. So members, we will now proceed to agenda item 4, which is public question time. We have no registered speakers this evening, so I will now proceed to agenda item 5, announcements and statements from the chairman and the leader of the council. So leader, I'll start with my statement and then I'll pass on to you in a moment. So since our last meeting of full council, only just over a month ago, I'm pleased to report that I've attended 14 community events across the district, each reflecting the diversity, energy and commitment of our residents. These are the highlights, and I do apologise in advance, but there have been many highlights, and I think they do need recognising. So firstly, there was the groundbreaking ceremony for Whittam Community Centre, marking the beginning of an exciting community development. I had the pleasure of sharing a double-handed spade with the Mayor of Whittam, proving that good things really do come in pairs. So we also have promoted wellbeing and employment across the district here in Braintree with the Age Welfare and also the Spectrum's Work Job Fair. Very well-attended events and very important for not only people in their later years having support around the home and also their family members, but also members, neurodiverse members of our community with either diagnosis or maybe not quite a diagnosis yet with autism, ADHD, being able to get into the workplace. And I was really, really pleased to see so many local community groups and employers that are able to support that initiative, and it was well attended as well. Alongside Councillor Bowers-Flint and Councillor Tom Cunningham, I visited the First Stop Centre. Incredible place. If you ever get the chance to visit, please do. I was quite humbled to arrive maybe a little bit earlier than I was supposed to, but there were so many people queuing up for food. It was quite unbelievable, and it just goes to show what a brilliant community initiative, giving people food that is reducing food waste first and foremost, but enabling people to have food free of charge collected every Thursday. So very, very great initiative there. And I also popped over to Whittam again to Team Kinetics, which is an active lifestyle for young people. And there was a group of children in what we would refer to in education as a pupil referral unit, children that have been permanently excluded from their schools. These were high school children, and they were so engaged and loving life. If anybody familiar with parkour, they were jumping, backflipping, they were excelling, and it was great to see that initiative over in Whittam supporting many members of our community. I went to my first school, so I was very proud to participate very hands-on at Rain Primary School, supporting science and innovation with their STEM Day. One event that I did actually host, and I don't think it can be understated, is the Armed Forces celebration. And thank you to those members that came along and supported that here in Braintree. But I also was asked by the Mayor of Howstead to attend Howstead's Armed Forces Day, and they did a fantastic job as well. Extremely hot day, we sweltering in our suits, but it was well attended and a brilliant asset to Howstead to see that their gardens were used for another brilliant community event. Another event was at Braintree, just across from us at the local park, for the Ice Festival, the inclusive community event, celebrating 70 years of MenCap. And again, for some members, they'll know the impact that MenCap has in our community. And yeah, I was really proud to see that members of our community that maybe struggled to access parts were able to be celebrated and were having the time of their life. So all funds went to a very good cause. I was a judge at Braintree Market, very pleased to be able to support the young entrepreneurs that we have, members that were under 30, part of the Young Market Traders competition, and there were 7 market stall holders actually, with market stall holders under the age of 30, so great to see younger generation taking that plunge into business. And I was alongside Olivia for Olivia's Curiosities, for anybody that knows, and she started on that pathway and has now got her own shop in the town as well. So it's great to see that members of our town are able to then buy shops in the town as well. Alongside the leader and also ward councillors Ayton, Diamond and Mason, I had a very inspirational morning at the Braintree Institute, just up the road from us, for the Al Falah Islamic Centre for their children's presentation ceremony. And again, there were Quran readings, there were recitals and plays, and actually really, really fantastic event to see a community that come together, and but their hospitality was second to none. So it was fantastic to see that those children, that community, are developing very, very commendable members of our community as they grow up and to be older. Just the other day, many things. We opened the new football pitch in Whittam Sports Ground. It was another boiling hot day. I think we're seeing the theme there. However, really, really looking forward to seeing the others across our district, particularly here at Notley High School, also Alec Hunter, and I believe possibly Honeywood as well at some point in the future. Just the other morning, alongside our fantastic Vice Chairman and Councillor Tom Cunningham popped down for a moment as well, just across in Weavers Park, a project from Alec Hunter, Becker's Green, Great Bradfords and Lions Hall, where a group of children came together to renovate the skate park with a local artist, and it has really rejuvenated that area. And it was brilliant to see Year 8 children from the local secondary school working and inspiring the Year 5 children of local primary schools, and have done an incredible job. When I first found out that children from my school were going to paint the local area and it was going to be graffiti, I was terrified at the prospect of that. However, what an incredible job they've done. And if you ever get the chance, I'm not advising you try to be like the Vice Chairman, trying to show off her moves on the ramp. However, just to go and have a look at it, I think we should all be very proud of what that's become. And then just within the last week, I can't say I participated, and also the Vice Chairman, also Councillor Jeffers can vouch for that, but I attended the 3K Fun Run and Duck Race hosted by the Friends of Bock in Blackwater, raising funds for the Promise of Hope. And actually, awards on the day were given to 2 very commendable members of our community that have sadly passed away in recent years, those being Scott Gilhooly, and also we spoke about Martin Richardson in this chamber just only a year ago. So awards were presented to the best runners on the day, and again, a very hot day, but an incredible day, raising funds for the Promise of Hope. And just the other day, I went to Hatfield Peveril, and what an incredible day I had in Hatfield Peveril. I took some photos, and they've certainly nearly gone viral online at the moment, but I attended the inauguration of the Hindu temple in Hatfield Peveril, and I would say if you ever get the opportunity to pop through, please go and visit. I was totally inspired. I was really, really well looked after. The hospitality was second to none, and members of our community from the Hindu community would often have to go to East London to prayer, and now they've got a brilliant place of worship, used to be a church, was quite derelict. The local community all raised lots of funds, bought the church, renovated it into a Hindu temple, and there were hundreds of people all over the village, and it was inspiring. And I think seeing people from all over our community come together was great to see. So these events, as I said, have been a privilege to attend. I remain extremely grateful to all of our community groups, our volunteers, councillors and residents who make Braintree District such a vibrant and inclusive place to serve. So thank you, members, and I'll now pass over to the Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Chairman, and you have obviously had a very busy period since the last meeting of this council. I have as well, but not unfortunately quite as the ability to travel around, and members will be aware from the number of ministerial letters that I have been sending out as soon as they've been received, that there is a lot happening at the moment. And with your indulgence, Chairman, I will want to make reference to 5 particular areas tonight, so members are up to date. Those will be devolution, local government reform, the cancellation of the A12 widening scheme, Weathersfield, and with your permission, Chairman, if I could then ask if you would allow Councillor Spray to report on the Rivenhall incinerator.
Yes. Just before you start, Leader, just to enable members to ask questions on all of these many items, I think it would be sensible to reorder the agenda at this stage. So this evening I've made that decision to allow questions to Leader and Cabinet to take place immediately following this item, because rather than pausing, discussing the motion and then coming back to this, I feel that we can give it the time it deserves straight after this moment now. So back over to you, Leader. Thank you.
And Chairman, you may wish, normally there's only one question allowed, but there is so much there. I hope you may indulge members who may wish to ask more than one question.
I will be more lenient on that today. Given
Okay, so I'll start first of all with devolution. It was confirmed in the House of Commons on the 17th of July that Greater Essex will go ahead with devolution, and that the work establishing a mayoral combined authority, an MCCA, to add to our dictionary of letters, can proceed. The Government's English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill, which was introduced earlier this month, is set for a second reading in the House of Commons in September. Separate legislation to create the MCCA will then go through Parliament in the autumn and winter, or autumn/winter, and the MCCA is set to be legally established in early 2026, with a mayoral election scheduled to take place on Thursday the 7th of May 2026. So that now is confirmed, that is now the government's approach on that. If I can now turn to local government reform. At our last meeting here, I provided members, informed members that there were 2 business cases in development for final submission to government on the 26th of September. Members will recall I said there was one group working on a 5 unitary option, which was being led by Southend-on-Sea City Council, and that a second group being led by Essex County Council was working on a preferred option of 3 unitaries. This week, members probably will have seen that both organisations, Southend-on-Sea and Essex County Council, have made public pronouncements about their case and are seeking comments back. And Essex County Council announced on Thursday of last week that their preferred configuration was one that would place Braintree District in a unitary that covered the areas currently administered by Colchester, Tendring and Uttlesford. Up until a week before, we were working I say we, it was being worked that it would be Colchester, Tendring and Malden. I think there are some issues that will still need to be discussed as to why the county has changed its mind from, I sent out the various maps. The one involving Malden was 3.2, option 3.2, whereas the option including Uttlesford is 3.4. However, just to add flavour, I've this morning chaired the Essex Leaders and Chief Execs meeting, and the leader of Thurrock Council provided an update on their proposal, which is for 4 unitary authorities, and their preferred configuration would place Braintree in a unitary area with Uttlesford and Chelmsford. So there is still a lot of work being done. We still await from the finance officers the detailed breakdown of the impact of these various proposals of the financial situation relating to the assets, to debt, and other things. So at this moment, we as a district continue to be involved in the work of the first 2 business cases. That's the 5 unitaries, and indeed myself, together with an officer, will be meeting in Southend tomorrow on that, and in the case for 3 unitaries, where on Thursday we will be meeting on that. As I have consistently said, until I personally am able to come to you with the detailed business plans, so that you can you look at them and say, yes, this one or that one or whatever, I am not committing this authority one way or the other on that. Clearly we will want to look also at what comes forward from Thurrock, although I will say on that, Uttlesford, Chelmsford, Braintree doesn't particularly strike me personally as a natural grouping. But we will again see what the financial configurations and others show. Either way, we will need to begin to make some decisions fairly soon. So my intention will be, if we have the draft proposals within the next fortnight or so, to call an informal meeting of colleagues so that we can actually go through and have an initial think. I think we might need to have a meeting before September to test the view of colleagues here on the proposals that are likely to emerge. We do have an all-member briefing on the 3rd of September, but I would like really to get a feel for how this members of this council are thinking about what may be on the table before then. So it may well, Chairman, be at fairly short notice that we will need to do it, and it's not the best month. I appreciate it's in the holidays, etc., but I think we will need to do that. I do believe that this authority and you colleagues are some of the most informed of any district councils. I have been stuck to my word and putting out letters from ministers as they have arrived, so that you've got that. I appreciate, and I think, I haven't had a chance to check, but I think you might have had an email on my behalf from Suzanne Bennett tonight with another load of stuff and different maps, which I think Councillor Staines asked if we could have the original of that. And they help you to go to sleep, don't they? Because they are enormous amounts of information, but it is there for that purpose. So I hope members will feel that they are being, and we will be discussing it later obviously, but that we are being really open and involving people in this in a way which I don't think some other councils necessarily are. If I can then turn to the A12 widening scheme cancellation, I have to say that along with the 7 other authorities along the route of the A12, it is an enormous disappointment that the government have actually cancelled, in fact, taken the A12 widening basically off any consideration. It is particularly difficult for some of us along the A12, for our colleagues in Chelmsford who have a local plan that is currently about to start being under investigation, because that inevitably will impact upon that. And also, we will need to recognise in the local plan committee that it will potentially provide us with some difficult decisions to make. I understand that the Braintree District call for site responses give enough land along the A12 to potentially provide 9,000 homes if this was to be selected for allocation. So it's hugely important to us that we continue to lobby for the A12 to be prioritised for investment, because that will enable us to have a greater choice as to where we will need to go for the bigger settlements that we know we're going to have to do. And therefore, I did not hesitate in joining a response from Brentwood, Chelmsford, Colchester, Malden, Tendring, Essex County Council and Transport East in signing a joint letter to the Transport Secretary expressing our concerns. We have always said, and I thought, and the government have said, that if we're going to have homes, etc., it has to come with infrastructure. And the A12 is an essential piece of infrastructure to enable us in our local plan deliberations to consider where we may or may not decide to go for the larger conurbations, which we know we will need to come up with to meet the target that the government has set for us. So that is the A12. Then, just so that we don't waste our time twiddling our thumbs, we've had an announcement, not an announcement, but a situation regarding the Wethersfield site. We have been informed that the site, which is currently housing around 800 men, may soon take in more people. The Home Office is considering using its temporary surge capacity, which would allow up to 420 extra beds, bringing the total to 1,220. Although no final decision has been made, we understand this could begin as early as next week. This is despite previous assurances that we would be given 3 weeks' notice. We were only informed of this 4 days ago. The Home Office say this is due to a rise in small boat crossings this summer, and they've said that the surge will be temporary, but haven't confirmed how long it will last. Alongside our partner organisations, we are urgently asking for further clarity on the situation so we can keep our residents up to date. We will continue to press for clear communication from the Home Office, and I will keep you updated as we learn more. I did this morning at the Essex Leaders and Chief Execs, where we had feedback from the police and the police Fire and Crime Commissioner about what the unfortunate incidents that have been happening in Essex, in Epping this week, which I'm sure we would all agree were absolutely appalling. And we just need to be careful that that does not spill over into Wethersfield. So, Chairman, those are the four areas that I wish to bring to the attention of members. And I will now, with your permission, ask Councillor Spray to give an update on the Rivenhall incinerator, which she will do now, if that's okay with you.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Spray.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for allowing me to do this, and thank you, Councillor Buckland. Following on from the motion at Council on the 2nd of June regarding the operation of the incinerator at Rivenhall, I just thought it might be helpful this evening to provide an update for members and just also to remind members of the process and what we decided to do. So, Chairman, the motion as put forward by the opposition parties asked for a call-in to the Secretary of State Indova, the operator, because they've moved very far away from the original granted permission, leaving just an incinerator to burn waste without any of the original recycling processes that were intended. There's also the matter of Essex County Council granting the contract to Indova to burn waste when the County Council are also the planning authority for that site. As I said at last council, it is not technically possible for this local authority to ask for a call-in direct to the Secretary of State, but I did say that we would write to the Planning Casework Unit and ask them to investigate. So that request was sent on the 17th of June. A response was received and the Head of Planning circulated that to all members on the 8th of July. But just in summary, the Planning Casework Unit have looked at this. They have come back to us and said they understand that County are still in discussion with the plant operators about the current ongoing planning applications, some of which seek to vary the original permission that was granted. And the PCU feel that applications may undergo a number of changes, but they don't expect them to be taken to a committee at the County Council before October of this year. And they say that those discussions need to conclude before they will consider whether a call-in is appropriate. So they are inviting us to wait until details are clearer, and then we are welcome to submit our request for a call-in again, which they will give consideration to. The Planning Casework Unit did offer an opinion on one of those applications, which was ESS/39/23/BTE-NMA, that's Non-Material Amendment 13. Now, that application looks to remove elements from the existing description of development and control them by planning condition instead, rather than planning application. The PCU don't believe that this application meets the call-in policy, but they will keep this under review, subject to any further request that we, at Braintree Council, wish to make a little later in the year. So I hope, Chairman, that this is a sufficient update for members on the call-in situation. As I say, we will keep an eye on it, as will the PCU, and later in the year it's entirely possible we'll go back to the casework unit and ask them to consider the call-in. I will just mention one other matter concerning incinerator, and this is activities that took place last week and are ongoing, I believe, for at least another week on the site. And this is steam blowing, which I understand is a form of testing prior to the incinerator going fully operational, probably in August, so fairly soon. Now, the result of this is visible plumes of smoke and on at least one occasion an odour which was detected by residents local to the site. Now, Indova did advise of this testing at the last liaison group meeting which I attended, and they also wrote to the residents nearest to the site advising them, you know, and giving them prior warning of this testing. However, I think it's fair to say that the plumes of smoke have been a good deal more visible than we expected, and they've also taken place outside of the hours that were originally proposed, which I think was not before 7 a.m. in the morning and not after 7 p.m. in the evening. There has been testing taking place as early as 5 a.m. and up to 11 p.m. at night, and I have, courtesy of emails from both Councillor Abbott and Councillor Thorogood, been copied into emails to Indova and sent photographs showing evidence of this. Now, I know that Councillor Abbott's also been in dialogue with Indova's General Manager querying these activities and raising objections, because it has caused some concern and confusion for local residents. In response, Indova are saying, well, this testing is in line with Environment Agency permissions they've been given, and that these plumes of smoke and odour will not occur when the plant is actually in operation. However, I wouldn't say that this activity is exactly helping Indova's cause at all. It's been taking place well outside of the hours that they assured the liaison group that they would be doing the testing. So I just wanted to say we are well aware of that. Various members, I say, have raised objection, and I think it's less than satisfactory. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Spray, and also Councillor Butland. So, extensive update there this evening. So, as already indicated, we will now deal with the agenda item. And before we do proceed with our agenda item 7, which will be questions to Leader in the Cabinet, could I just ask somebody to remind or let Councillor Bowers-Flint know that we can continue with her now? Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman, just to assist Councillor Bowers-Flint, she has just indicated that if any questions that are raised during the next part of the agenda, she will leave the chamber. Obviously, a courtesy for her to be able to leave as quickly as she can.
Yeah,
Thank you,
we'll be
Chairman.
alert to that. Thank you. You're going to be getting your steps in today by the looks of it. So members, as I've already indicated, I'll permit additional questions during this item. Please do not duplicate questions, though, that have already been asked, as we really do want to make best use of the time of this part of the agenda. So questions must be succinct and cannot be asked in parts, and supplementary questions will not be permitted. I will allow some explanation if it is necessary, but I will contain any long lead-in statements. We do have 30 minutes for this item. As we have apologies for absence this evening from Councillor Beavis, questions will commence with Councillor James Abbott as Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and the order of the remaining questions will be at my discretion. Just before I hand over to Councillor Abbott, can all members that wish to speak or ask a question this evening now indicate, so we can start to make a list? That would be really helpful. Thank you. Please keep your hand up until you've been acknowledged. Thank you. Thank you, members. Councillor Abbott, you can start with your question if you have one this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and given your helpful suggestion we could ask more than one, I'd like to ask two if possible, one of Councillor Butland and one of Councillor Spray, and to give Councillor Bowles-Flint notice, the second one will be about the incinerator.
Okay, thank you.
To Councillor Butland, in the joint council leaders' letter of 17th of July, and in the Braintree District Council press release, both regarding the government's A12 announcement, the council referred to two strategic development sites, and related to that, what he's just said just now, 9,000 houses, a very specific number, and related to that, a new towns bid being put at risk by the A12 widening cancellation. Does that mean that he and other cabinet members knew in advance what recommendations were due to be made to the LPC meetings in September and October regarding strategic sites, had the A12 gone ahead? And related to that, can he say now what these 9,000 houses relate to in terms of specific sites?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I can't, because I don't know the specific sites. All I know is, from the advice given by officers, that it would have an impact on what came forward to the local plan subcommittee, and it may have an impact on the recommendations from officers when they send it to us. But I've had no input into that. But clearly, when we get the reports about all sites, we will need to know, as you and I equally, as members of the local plan committee, whether the individual sites are going to be sustainable, have the proper transport and that sort of thing. So it's only to say that we know we have a large target to get. We know that there are a number of sites, and I don't know all of them by any means, that we may have, as a result of this decision, our choice. We could overrule officers, but it may be that officers will have to come and say, actually, these sites are no longer sustainable. But personally, I do not know what individual sites, and I have not sought to find that out. It's just a concern, as indeed it is to all authorities along the A12, what the impact will have on their local plans. Does that answer the question? I mean, I'm happy to, with the Chairman's permission, I'm happy to, if you want to come back.
Thank you, I've made notes.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for Councillor Spray for her helpful update. I was aware of all those things, and thank you also for referencing us as local members, raising concerns on behalf of the local community who I think I put in one social media posting. This is just the start of it. I expect a lot more of this. I will, though, if I may, go back to the issue of the motion we put forward. And this line that she is using, that our motion was somehow flawed because the council can't make a call in. Soon after our motion was voted down, the council did almost exactly what our motion proposed. Now, I'm sure she knows, I know, that a request to the call-in unit is in effect a request for the Secretary of State to intervene. The two things are more or less the same. That's what we did in 2009 when we successfully got a call-in and a public inquiry. So when the I can't remember who it was, but someone said within the administration group that we'd been playing political games on this issue on social media. Does she actually think, with hindsight, it might have been better to put an amendment into our motion to tweak that wording rather than vote it down and say that we were playing political games?
Sorry, Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. I thank Councillor Abbott for his comments and questions. No, the objection to the motion was purely on technical grounds. We do not disagree with the meaning behind it, which is that the original application, which included quite a lot of, I mean, like the incinerator or not, of good recycling proposals, those have fallen away. So we didn't disagree with the meaning behind the motion, but the advice, very sound advice, was that it's technically not possible for this local authority to make a call into the Secretary of State. It needed to go to the Planning Casework Unit. Now, that body may be part of the MHCLG, but it is a separate, nevertheless, a separate unit, and it is for them to consider whether the call-in is appropriate and then take it forward to the Secretary of State. That was the correct route to take, and we preferred to make a clean process and to say that we would refer it to the PCU, which is what we did, and then we have received a response that they will consider it later in the year once they feel that there is sufficient clarity between Essex County Council and the site, the Rivenhall site. And then we're welcome to refer it. We felt that was the best and the cleanest route to take. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Next I have Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. My question is along those lines as well. Thank you, Councillor Spray, for giving us that update. And I felt there was a whole lot of information for me to take in. So forgive me if some of my question sounds that I should know. But there's a lot of terminology and a lot of parts of this process. And I want to understand what is going to take so long for the PLU, did you say it was called?
PCU.
PCU, to take it forward to decide whether it's going to go to the Secretary of State or not. What needs to happen in there? Because it seems to be a long time. And the second part of my question is, you also mentioned when you were giving us an update, I think that there was something going to be happening, that more things would come to pass in August. Therefore, what impact will that then have, and what recourse do we have to that in the meantime? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman, and I thank Councillor Mason for her questions. So the timeline is Indaver have some applications, planning applications in at the moment, which Essex County are considering. The majority of those applications are to vary conditions on the original application, and those discussions between Essex County and Indaver are ongoing. The likelihood is that they will have to come to a planning committee at Essex County Council so that the members of that committee can make a decision on whether they approve or not those variations. Given the discussions ongoing, and I assume putting a committee agenda together at county, PCU think it is likely to be October before that committee is held. That's why there is a time lag. It's not our doing, it's the way that county and their planning committee will work. As regards the process, my understanding, and I think it is the intention from Indaver, that the incinerator itself will become operational in August. So it will start burning waste in August. What they're doing at the moment is the testing, steam blowing, which is to make sure that it is operating correctly and from the engineering point of view. But the actual operation, we believe, will start in August. We don't have an exact date, and I'm guessing there could be a delay on that if they feel it's necessary. But that's the start date. Thank you, Chairman.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. We're just going to wait a couple of moments. Councillor Bowers-Flint is just going to be making her way back into the chamber. Okay, thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Next, I have Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Chair. You have referenced this hot weather we've been having in your opening comments. My comments are also concerning the hot weather and residents enjoying it in our open spaces, especially in town centres and the green areas around. I have noticed, maybe related to it, that there's quite a few electric bikes from fast food outlets going through the town centre, especially on the pedestrian areas, but that's beside the point. Answers on the back of a postcard to me, if that's still allowed. My main concern is the methodology for the collecting of litter bins, emptying them, and the dog waste. It seems to be haphazard. Is there a set process to have these emptied? Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham. Thank you, Councillor Prime.
Mr Chairman, thank you very much. I'm very happy to answer the question relating to bins, and then I'll pass on over to Councillor Bowers, if that's okay, because he answers matters regarding highways of this authority. In relation to the bins, we currently collect over 2,000 every week across a number of routes, both in the rural and urban areas. We do receive a low number of inquiries regarding overflowing full bins in the district, but totally appreciate that due to prolonged periods of pleasant weather, usage of the bins may increase. And therefore, when we do have reports of overflowing bins, we take direct remedial action to go and deal with those. But obviously, local resident and member feedback on that is hugely important in order to ensure
we're keeping on top of the job. We are currently undergoing a quite seismic bin review across the whole district. That is 80% completed, in order to ensure we have the appropriate additional bin capacity for future needs. That work is progressing, and it's likely that the actions from that bin review will be implemented in the next financial year, subject to budget asks and the customary budgetary process. Mr. Chairman, I'll hand over to Councillor Bowles. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham, and thank you, Chairman. Yeah, in relation to bikes in the town centre, and especially electric bikes, and one of the original ambitions as part of the pedestrianisation project was an encouragement of walking and cycling, and to that end, cycling is allowed in the town centre. According to government regulations, electric bikes are allowed to be ridden on cycle paths, and anywhere else pedal bikes are allowed as long as they're electric assisted pedal cycles. It's also worth noting that our ambition as part of the pedestrianisation project also was supported by Essex County Council when, I think it was in September last year, they published a local cycling and I think it's walking infrastructure plan that basically introduced or reinforced there's 4 formal cycle routes that come from the town centre and go out to parts of the district. So it's very much about we do encourage that. If there's any types of, obviously it's with considerate use with others. So if there is any situations where we think that is being abused, that would be a matter for the police, and that also can develop in time. It would be down to the Essex County Council if we look at like traffic regulation order and that kind of thing. As part of protecting users of the town centre in regards to cyclists and walkers and people that use the town centre, DOT scooters are forbidden from the town centre, from the pedestrianisation part of the town centre. And the last point as in my response to the cycle point is just to make the point that it's also remind members and the public that it does remain illegal to ride privately owned electric scooters, for example, on pavement and roads and the like. So hopefully that's a little bit of a detailed answer to the point, but I think it is worth clarifying all those points. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Next, I have Councillor Jeffress.
Thank you, Chair. And I hope I'm not going to cause Councillor Bowes any problem. I just wanted to thank Councillor Sprague for her update. As I was working in Silver End today and can see the incinerator from where I work and saw what I thought was smoke coming across, and that was steam blown. So you've clarified that for me, and that it was before 9 o'clock. I don't know if it was earlier than that, but I can imagine it causes quite a lot of concern for residents. It certainly did to me. My question was really about trees. So obviously we had the very sad case at Chalkwell Park in Southend recently, where a child actually died and others were injured. I'm just a bit concerned again with the not unseasonably, but very hot weather and then the rain. I know that there have been some trees reported with some broken boughs and branches, and I'm just hoping and looking for reassurance that those complaints and concerns will be followed up as much as possible. Obviously, we do have quite a lot of trees in the district, but particularly where we've got parks and they're reported as dangerous, that we have the capacity to just go and check them out.
Councillor Sprague is going to take this one for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. A very timely question. And yes, it was a terrible tragedy that happened. You're right, we do have a lot of trees in this district. Some of them are on BDC land and in our ownership. Many, of course, are in private ownership. I can give an assurance because I raised this with our planning and landscaping team immediately after the accident happened, and asked similar question to the one that Councillor Jeffries has just asked, and I can give an assurance. We do inspect our trees regularly anyway. We do encourage people to report any signs of any trees that they feel are failing at all, overhanging branches that might be unsafe, and we do respond extremely quickly to that, and that's in addition to doing our regular inspections. So we are very much on top of this, and I think particularly since the very tragic accident, we are even more conscious than we already were of this. Trees that are on private land, we would just encourage landowners themselves to make frequent checks. If they need help and assistance with that, please to contact our landscape team, and we will give what help and advice we can. But yes, certainly it's something we are very mindful of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Next I have Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chair. Given that the decision to cancel the A12 widening, which would have delivered rerouting and removal of much of the heavy traffic through Rivenall End, assuming the government sticks to its decision, what will this council do to press Essex County Council and National Highways to urgently review the safety of the grossly substandard and dangerous junction on the A12 at Rivenall End?
Thank you. Councillor Butland. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Wright highlights yet another issue relating to the cancellation of the A12 widening and the impact that it has. Clearly, Essex County Council, as the Highways Authority, will want to make recommendations. I think we have shown that all of the authorities are, and different political control across all of them, are very keen to present a united front and try and get the government to at least bring the widening of the A112 back into the programme, if at all possible, and if necessary also to find other ways in which we may be able to deal with some existing problem areas. But at this moment, clearly we have a lot of work to do on that, but we fully understand the impact that it has on different parts, different communities along the A12, all the way from Brentwood through to Colchester and Marks Tay. I mean, that's the busy area, and the bulk of it, of course, does in fact go through this district. So there will be an issue that will need to be taken up, and we will want to work very closely with Essex County Council, along with some of the issues, through you, Chairman, that Councillor Wright has raised. And we will keep you informed of how that goes. Okay?
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. Residents have been in touch with me repeatedly over the last few months and years about the state of rain gardens, particularly a lack of tree planting, weeding and grass seeding. Now, I know the Cabinet Member and myself have been kept updated by the management company throughout this process. However, residents are really, really frustrated that they're paying extortionate management fees and getting such a poor service. So, with that in mind, could the Cabinet Member let the Council know what we can do to put pressure on the management company to deliver for residents in rain gardens? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank Councillor Edwards for his question. Yes, I am well aware of the issue around rain gardens and the frustration expressed by residents in Councillor Edwards' ward. It's true to say, although the play park part of this, it's a relatively new development, by the way, for members who don't know. Although the play park is open, the whole area is quite unsatisfactory in terms of landscaping and so on. It's fair to say, with regards to the planting, obviously given the very dry spells of weather we've had, keeping planting alive and going is difficult, but that's not the only problem. There are landscaping issues around the levels and so on. It is very unsatisfactory. If it gives Councillor Edwards and his residents some comfort, I did actually raise this very issue with the development manager only last week during a briefing that we had. and officers who were already aware that there were some problems going on are now going to take a look at it. It would not be appropriate, Chairman, for me to detail in this forum what might happen, but they are taking a look at it and appropriate action will be forthcoming. I think I will leave it at that, but I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spray. I have Councillor Moya Thorogood.
My question is about recycling sacks. Every year we have 3 rolls on our doorsteps at least once a year. Have been asked if it's going to happen this year. I have been told that some of the residents have had them already, but there's a lot in my ward that have not received them. And is it going to happen this year?
Councillor Tom
Thank-
Cunningham. Thank you.
Can I thank Councillor Moya Thorogood for her question. I will look into where we are with the delivery of recycling sacks across Bocking South, but I think I'm right in saying there is always a supply available here if there's an immediate emergency, but I'll get her a full service update and send it to her. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Coulthard.
Thank you, Chairman. Would the Cabinet Member for Planning like to join me in congratulating White Cone for winning Village of the Year at the Rural Community Council of Essex annual meeting? As the District Councillors of the Cones Ward, it is always a great pleasure for Councillor Spray and me to attend the White Cone Parish Council meetings and other events in this beautiful, happy, exceptionally friendly and well-organised village. It is all a rural village should be and more, and considerable credit is due to the Parish Council.
Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And yes, thank Councillor Coulthard very much for his question. We are both absolutely delighted at this news. So Whitecombe was awarded Essex Village of the Year last week by the Rural Council Essex at their meeting. Absolutely delighted about the news. It is, as Councillor Coulthard said, I mean, it's actually one of our smallest villages, but it has a tremendous community spirit. They are really good at putting on events. It's actually one of the most organised parish councils that I've come across. They are great at digging out grant funding opportunities for projects. They are really good at pulling everybody together. They put on some brilliant events. The winter hub that they put on in the village hall 2 Fridays every month during the winter is a particular success. I try and go as often as I can, not just because the scones and the cakes are really good, they're all made locally, but because it's a very good opportunity to sit down with residents, some of whom come from surrounding villages because it's got a bit of a reputation for being a nice thing to do on a Friday morning. It's a nice place to sit down and catch up with residents. I know I get my ear bent about planning when I'm doing it, but at least I'm doing it with coffee and cake in front of me. So they are a great community. I actually emailed the parish clerk, Jane Taylor, this morning and said, well done from both Councillor Courtauld and myself. And she was kind enough to email back and say, well, yes, it's about the community, but our 2 district councillors helped as well because you're always there to answer questions and give support, which was very nice of her to say that. And she went on to say, this news seems to put a smile on everybody's face, whether they're a resident of the village or from Earlscone or Cone and Gain, who also come along to the village hall events. So I think really good piece of news, particularly in the rather challenging times we have at the moment. Yeah, very good news story. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So time, we're nearly encroaching on the allotted time for this item, but I am going to use my discretion at this point because we still have a few remaining questions. So I'll be using my discretion and will allow up to an additional 10 to 15 minutes for further questions because I appreciate there's some pressing items that we haven't had covered just yet. So next I have Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chair. Really appreciate that. 2 questions for me, if I may. The first one relates to Wethersfield and the second one relates to the large sites review for the local plan. First question, tonight's announcement regarding Wethersfield's surge capacity growth is a huge concern as the self-imposed current capacity threshold will be likely to be exceeded within weeks. Councillor Hall and myself will follow up with all parties outside tonight's meeting can I please ask for your assurance across the team that you will support efforts to manage this as required and keep residents informed, and with an eye to Dominic sitting here with us, watch compliance with the SDO. Thank you.
We'll take this one first, if that's okay. Councillor Butland.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I understand what Councillor Staines and Councillor Holt are saying. Can I make a plea to all members of this council that we do our utmost to keep the temperature on this down and not exacerbate the situation? I think there is a huge responsibility on all of us to take that approach. I think I personally have been appalled in the case of Epping, where there has been an elected member who was actually leading protesters
with his mother.
And his mother, yes, actually leading protesters. I am hopeful and I think confident that none of our members will engage in that, and I'm sure Councillor Staines won't, nor Councillor Holt. We need to, as he says, to keep residents in the picture. We will do, but we need to be careful that if we put things on social media, it is factual and not pass on other things, because I am really concerned about the impact that some of the current stuff that is going on social media at this time is having on community cohesion, etc. So, I undertake to work closely with Councillors Holt and Staines, and all I would ask for in return is that we do keep to the actual stuff and not try, I'm sure you won't, but not try and exacerbate the situation with stuff on social media which is not true. We need to show leadership here as elected members.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Staines, I'll allow you to ask your second question now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Second question relates to the 24th of September large site review. And the question is, when will officers share the 24th of September large site social plan, or the local plan, beg your pardon, with the residents? Many communities are stressed by this process. Can this please be expedited to give residents as much notice as possible? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I thank Councillor Staines for his question, and I'll take the answer on this one. So, the meetings for the large sites are scheduled for end of September, beginning of October. The agenda for those meetings will be published at the normal time, but at least I think 10 days, might be able to get them out a little earlier than that before those meetings. Officers, I know, are working now and actually have been for the last few weeks on examining those sites and preparing the reports, because as I'm sure Councillor Staines will understand, Chairman, they're quite complex. It's, you know, some of the sites we've looked at so far over the meetings in the last couple of months have been very small sites around the villages, and they are fairly straightforward to deal with. This is much more complicated. We will get the agendas out at the appropriate time. Members and residents will have plenty of time to read those and to look at the recommendations. And I would just emphasise again, well, two things. We have a housing target to make, which is not optional, it's mandatory. The difficulties caused by the decision to cancel the A12 improvements doesn't just apply to this local authority, it impacts others too. Chelmsford City Council, for example, they were about to submit their local plan within the next couple of weeks. I know that some of the sites contained within their local plan were dependent on the A12 improvements, so this has caused them a great difficulty much earlier than it may or may not cause us a difficulty. And just finally, officers will obviously make a recommendation on those strategic sites, but the local plan subcommittee members will decide. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Next I have Councillor Bohr.
Thank you, Chairman. Recently, Braintree District Council has had remarkable success in obtaining a third tranche of funding under the Safer Streets Fund from the PFCC. I wonder whether the Cabinet member is able to tell us how those funds might be spent. Thank you.
Councillor Mary Cunningham, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Ball, for your question. We have been extremely fortunate to receive a third award. When we had the second award given to us in Houston about 18 months ago, we thought we were extremely lucky to have won 2 awards in this district. So when the funding came available again for another round of Safer Streets I think it was last autumn, we obviously wanted to bid, but I think we thought that actually this was just a little bit too much to hope for. But we have been, as Councillor Ball said, extremely fortunate again to have 3 Safer Streets. So all our towns now have a Safer Streets funding. And I think it's testament to the excellent business case that our community services team, and in partnership with the local police through the Community Safety Partnership, the case that they put towards that bid, and also that we are very good on our monitoring, because obviously if you're getting funding, you then have to provide very good monitoring. So excellent, congratulations to all involved in those bids. So the grant that has been awarded by the PFCC, some of the, well, in fact, I think this is all the items that will be delivered under that funding, is 7 additional CCTV cameras for the town centre with monitoring, Braintree Street Warden, some detached work with young people. That was very, I think in both Whittam and Halstead, that's proved to be very helpful. Expansion of the neighbourhood watch coverage, the Essex Dog Watch scheme, which is always useful and has served us well. Community engagement and promotion, and I know a lot of councillors here will have taken part in some of those community engagement events over the last 2 years in both Whittam and Halstead. The Stronger Together theatre production for secondary schools, that's an education programme. Town centre signage and some project management to work with partners to deliver the different schemes. So it's something we are really looking forward to being rolled out. The grant agreement was signed by governance last week, and it will be rolled out over the next year. And it's a 1-year project which will carry through until July, August next year. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. Councillor Ramage.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. With the demise of the A12, there's one fundamental thing that I'm concerned about is the intersection with the A120, because that was going to be part of the project. And could the Cabinet member explain to me if the A120 is still viable, and also how they're going to deal with it if the A12 is not going to be there to be connected to? Thank you very much.
Councillor Butland.
Well, as I say, the A12 widening, as it is a major road through the county, and the necessarily impact potentially upon the A120, is too early at this stage, because the announcement was only made last week, to know the full impact of that. But as Councillor Ramage says, the impact potentially on this district of both of those is extremely important, and we will need to take into account as we move forward in our planning as to ensuring that the infrastructure is appropriate when we make any decisions in terms of the local plan. So it's a great pity. There's no doubt about it. It was more than a great pity. I mean, I think many of us in Essex are very, very disappointed that a plan that had been worked up and ready to go has, with a strike of a pencil, that money has gone away from here, and quite frankly, it's gone up north. And that is going to mean really difficult for us. So that is why I think without any shadow of a doubt, has been the main reason why the 7 authorities have come together so quickly, and the 7 leaders, because as you saw in the copy of the letter, it impacts differently in the different areas, but it's a substantial impact upon Essex, which not only in terms of housing, but our growth aspirations as well, we need to have the infrastructure. We've always said here that we're not, most anyway, that we're not against infrastructure growth and housing if the infrastructure is there. And that is what we need to go back to government, because government have been saying you've got to have the infrastructure, and we need to see them in terms of delivering that in Essex.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. I believe Councillor Paul Farragut is our last question, but does anybody, just in case we missed anybody, please indicate if you have been missed. So, Councillor Paul Farragut.
Thank you. It's a quick question on the A12 cancelling and the impacts on the local plan schemes. With the cancellation of the A12, at full council last week at Essex, Deputy Leader Louise McKinley said that the cancellation would impact local plans in a number of councils and they would be knocked back by months. Is Braintree going to be knocked back? And also the impact on Fearing and Kelvedon in the existing plan, local plan. There's the Crown Estates strategic site, which it was going to submit, I believe, once the A12 was announced. Obviously it hasn't. Now there was going to be a super junction at Inworth, and that was going to take Tiptree traffic off Kelvedon High Street and Fearing Hill. And also, if the Crown Estates land does go ahead, any traffic that goes from there wants to go to Chelmsford, it's got to go through Kelvedon. We've got a new site with permission at London Road. Any traffic there that wants to go to Colchester will have to go through Kelvedon and Fearing. Will the cancellation of the A12 impact the existing plan? Thanks.
Councillor Butland.
I certainly think, as Councillor Spray mentioned, it's likely to impact time-wise on the Chelmsford City Plan, because that was ready to go to the inspector, and they may well now, as a council, I can't speak for them, but they may well need to review. There's no point in them putting forward a plan if they know that it's going to be knocked back. And as far as we are concerned, as I said in response to Councillor Abbott's question, it may well, our officers are going to have to, in the reports that they send to us for the local plan in September and October, are going to have to inform us of their professional opinion of what impact the cancellation of the A12 might have on any particular schemes that obviously are close to or alongside the A12. We know we've got a target to get. All I was trying to point out today is that our choices might be, might be more restricted because of that decision.
Thank you, members. That concludes this item. Any questions requiring a written response will be answered within 10 working days of this meeting and shared with all members. So we'll now return to item 6, which is our motion by Councillor James Abbott, the Greater Essex Local Government Reorganisation. So following the publication of this report, and as set out on page 5 to 6 of this agenda, an amendment to the published motion was received in accordance with the Council's procedural rules. Councillor Abbott and Councillor Walsh, as the proposer and seconder of the original motion, were consulted and have consented to the amendment. As a result, the amended motion is now the substantive motion to be considered this evening. Members, please can I remind you that an addendum report setting out the amended motion was published and circulated to all members on Friday the 18th of July, and we'll be referring to the amended motion report for the debate. Councillor Abbott, the proposer of the motion, is here this evening, but Councillor Walsh was unable to be here this evening, and therefore I'll need a seconder for the motion, and we'll call for this shortly. So Councillor Abbott, please can you formally move your motion before you make a speech on your motion? I will then seek a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I formally move the motion.
Thank you. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Farragut. Councillor Farragut, do you wish to reserve your right to speak on this item?
I do, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farragut. So, members, the motion has been formally moved and seconded. I will now invite Councillor Abbott to make his speech.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Local government reform and so-called devolution in Essex are once in a generation or even a lifetime changes that will affect our communities, businesses, organisations and groups, our environment, and taken together, all our futures. So it is important, vital even, that the process is transparent, well evidenced and democratic. We were happy to accept the amendments put forward by the administration to our motion in the most part, because actually they added some helpful detail around the process. However, the changes they've made to the first paragraph of our motion are curious. Why does the Conservative administration not want all members of this council to be able to have a vote on the LGR bid options? We proposed in our original motion that should happen at the scheduled 15th of September meeting of council, but they took it out of the motion. Could it be that the ruling Conservative administration don't want to risk losing a vote on what the Cabinet thinks is their preferred option? Could it be that they're not confident of how their own backbenchers might vote in any such debate? After months of jockeying for position, it now seems, and as Councillor Butland correctly referred to earlier, there are not 2 but 3 rival bids from existing Essex County Councils, 5 unitaries, 4 unitaries, 3 unitaries. So let's assume that remains the case when we get to the 15th of September, which is just before the Cabinet meeting, which will consider the Council's views formally, and I do accept, before anyone says that constitutionally they sign off the decision, I do understand that, and that is just before the bids have to go to government. So there doesn't appear to be a timeline reason why members of this authority shouldn't have a vote. And we'd be very interested as to know what the reasons are why members of this council cannot have a vote on those 3 options, even if it is an indicative minuted vote which then informs Cabinet. It seems that Essex leaders have become a tad frit when it comes to democracy. They moved very sharpish to set in motion the process which cancelled the May local elections to make way for devolution and LGR. And as far as Braintree is concerned, do not seem to want all members of this council to have a vote on such a momentous decision that will lead to this council ceasing to exist and to be replaced by, we know, a much larger council, but we don't know exactly what the boundaries of that will be. So there is still time to reconsider the position of the administration and allow a minuted vote to be held on the options at the September meeting, and I believe that would be the right and democratic thing to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please can I remind members that speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start my remarks this evening by thanking the Leader and the policy of the Cabinet for keeping members so well up to date on this process so far. The information that we've received at various meetings, the political executive team, the joint executive team, in the Cabinet meetings as well, has been shared with all members, and I believe it's been a very open and transparent process, which is markedly different to how other local authorities, local districts, local boroughs are keeping their members informed. I'd like to speak on the 2 assumptions that I think the original motion got wrong, that I think the amendment gets right. The first off being that this authority really has any agency in the final decision in this process. Fundamentally, this is a decision that will be taken by the Deputy Prime Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. It is not a decision taken in this chamber. It was not this authority that decided to cancel elections. It was not Essex County Council that decided to cancel elections. It was the government. The government are running this process. Yes, as local authorities, we have the right to express an opinion. And as I say, I think the leaders kept us very up to date on the process that is going on there. But we will not have the final say on this decision. The other assumption that I think this motion makes is that we should have a vote on this matter. Chairman, we did have a vote on this matter, and that was at the general election last year. Now, I don't want to presume to imagine how the gentleman opposite voted. I worked quite hard to ensure that the current government wasn't in power, wasn't successful. But the people expressed a very clear mandate for the government, a huge majority at that election for their manifesto that included local government reform, that included this process. We are having a debate at full council. There will be a chance for members there to express their views, and I'm sure the leader and the cabinet will take those views into consideration when they respond in September to the proposals that will come out of this process. So, as I say, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the leader for the way in which he's conducted this process, and I'd like to stress this is something the government is doing to us, and that really as a local authority we have very little agency in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Jeffress.
This is happening too often, Councillor Edwards. I seem to be agreeing with you again. But I also agree with Councillor Abbott, which is also not always the case. It is the case, I think, that we have been kept very well informed, and in actual fact, there is lots, if I might say, perhaps too much information available, because the local government association have got a lot of information on their information, their daily updates. The the local government information unit also have lots of information, and in fact even this morning just had an online discussion. So there is, talking about the motion, that there is loads of information out there. It is extremely difficult. It is the biggest change in local government. So I do remember, I do remember 50 years ago when there was a huge change, and this is bigger than that. But we have to move on, and I agree with moving on, but I think, you know, we need to do it as an informed council, and as Councillor Edwards said, it's not our decision to make. However, we can keep ourselves informed and our residents as informed as possible. And I welcome any additional meetings that we can be involved with. And I think the idea of having an informal meeting, at least to discuss it, is most welcome. So all I can say is that I agree with the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffress. Next I have Councillor Van Dolken.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Jeffress and my colleague, Councillor Edward, have stolen much of my thunder. I was going to support the basic premise that we have been kept very much informed. Part of my role, or some of my roles, do involve engagement across Essex, representing Braintree District Council, where I have the chance to meet a lot of county councillors and second-tier councillors, and my sense is certainly that we have been kept very much informed, indeed more informed and engaged than many others. So I certainly support this motion on that point alone.
Thank you, Councillor Van Dolken. Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you very much. I won't say too much this evening, but just to acknowledge and thank Councillor Abbott and Councillor Walsh for accepting the amendment. And if there is a bit of disparity in terms of some of the detail of the motion, some of the amended motion, I think that has to be considered against the context of where there is great agreement. And I have to say that bodes extremely well. And I think it's an opportunity for the authority collectively to reflect on how the process has been carried out so far, how both the administration and the senior officers have dealt with these issues. And I do think we have performed strongly collectively as a unit here at Braintree District Council. And those relationships that we have with each other, the relationships we have with senior officers, the relationships we have with other partners, both corporately and politically within the wider Essex sector, are going to be key. As I say, I think Braintree District Council has done a good job so far on this. I think the County Council has done a good job in terms of setting out its approach and trying to bring people with them together. If there is sometimes a slight disparity or tension in the two-tier system, that's often because of the size of the organisation and their different approaches. These are tensions and difficulties that are overcome, and they're overcome quite quickly. I would reflect that it hasn't always been the case across the Essex sector, and we hope that those both politically and maybe corporately too rise in a collective march to the summit and reach those sunny uplands in the weeks ahead, because the real bit of work that needs to be done is once submissions are made in September, once the decision-making process is taken, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, in the grand scheme of things, the real relevance of that decision is a direct link back and a direct route back to our mutual friends, the residents of the Braintree district. And our job of work is not only in the next 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, to ensure that we continue to do what was required of us here at Braintree District Council, but to give any unitary authority the best possible start. And I think we all look forward to, post this warm-up to proceedings post-September, to focusing wholly on that, and I have great confidence that we'll be able to do that as a collective unit. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. If no other members wish to speak on this matter.
Chairman, Councillor Staines is indicated.
Thank you. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I didn't put my hand up quickly enough. I support this motion from the Independent and Green Group and amended by the Majority Group to help inform this Council's position on Essex local government reorganisation. Looking back, we can see from the sharing of the MHCLG letters that the promised gains from taking Essex into Devo early to negotiate a better settlement now seem very remote. Having been dragged into the Devo River, we are all now being swept along by its strong current, and that was swollen last week by Essex MCCA parliamentary announcement. There is no consensus on the best way forward for Essex, just two main competing views. A 5 UA group enabled by Southend released a public survey in late June, and it closed yesterday with over 7,000 residents and businesses having responded. The Essex County Council 3 UA option, not one modelled by their consultants from July, was announced by press release last week, just before the public 5 UA survey closed. This council did not share or publicise the 5 UA public survey, while other organisations like the Backing Essex Business did. The 5 UA results will be shared with all Essex local authorities as part of the evidence sharing agreement, and importantly with the Essex public on the Your Say Southend platform before the end of July. Members will also likely share my frustration that the MHCLG has not yet published the results from its own GECA public survey, which concluded in April. Looking forward, residents are deeply and increasingly sceptical about local government, all tiers, but mostly about Tier 1, not helped by the North Essex Shadow Board operating beyond their elected term. They also greatly mistrust messaging that devolution and local government reorganisation will bring better accountability, public service performance and value nearer to them and their communities, especially in rural areas. Essex authorities, or all of the lower super output areas, need to work harder, smarter, together in consensus and with greater transparency if we're going to address resident concerns to get them the best results, and frankly be in the strongest position possible to potentially influence MHCLG in any way we still can. Well before September, I look forward to this District Council and higher tier groups, many represented in this chamber, working more openly with all others to ensure its residents have a meaningful say in decisions about the shape and representation of their local government in Greater Essex, which goes beyond financial considerations, and then after in the prioritised development of the implementation plan. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think I should, just for clarity, point out that it will be the government itself that will be doing the public consultation. So if you've watched what has happened in Surrey, who are somewhat a little bit ahead, the government there have shown options that it is willing to consider and is consulting with the public. That will be the major consultation. I think the consultation that has been done by the 5 group and the 3 group are as much to garner support for their case than necessarily prove what it is. And if any, I mean, if I was, well, I am, an ordinary member of the public, and I was consulted on it, I really would not know what to say at this moment. And I've got all that stuff. You've had all that stuff. And do you think it means, do you think many people in Essex have actually read that yet? I mean, I just really am saying, let us wait. I mean, I could have just said, look, it's an executive decision. I think it should be X, and sod the rest of you. That's the constitutional position. What I am saying is, I think this council deserves better, and the residents deserve better. And when those cases are made up, whether it's 2 or 3, we'll have to see, that we consider that as a group. Now, the reason Councillor Abbott raises, why it wouldn't be a vote, I don't know whether there will be. I think we'll probably have 1 submission, but it may have 2 or 3. Hopefully it won't be more. Potential solutions. Now, at this stage, it would be difficult if we have 3 to have. How would we do a vote? Those who want 3, 3-2, 3-4. Somebody wants 3-9. It would be very difficult. I'm not closing the door. It just felt the way in which the motion was worded, it was as if there would be a single bid. If I just say that we'll hold a vote on the bid. Well, first of all, it's not a bid. Local government reform is going to happen. The government has said it's going to happen. It's a question of what in Essex we think is the most appropriate way of taking that forward. And I never felt for one moment from the start that 15 local authorities in what will be one of, if not the biggest county to undertake it, the complexity in Essex of not just a county council, which is the case in some places, but 2 unitary authorities and 12 district boroughs and cities was always going to be difficult. Remember, we are 1.8 million, so not everyone is going to reach an agreement on that. What we need, in my view, is to ensure that what submissions go forward are sensible, that they will not convey to government that we don't know what we're doing in Essex. I hope that a minister will look at the submissions and say, well, actually, they've looked at all aspects. And I do accept that whilst the data may be the same, you can interpret it in different ways. And you can put different weighting. So one of the major weightings is, do you put more emphasis on financial sustainability, or do you put more emphasis upon community cohesion and engagement? Now that's a decision which every person may have a different view as to the relative weight that they want to give to that. I think what we will want to do in September is to look at it. One, obviously, what does it mean for Braintree, because we are here to represent Braintree. But we've also got to think, what does it mean for Essex as a whole? Because whatever result comes out of this, it has to work for everybody. And there are clearly at the moment some really big unanswered questions. One of them, not least, is the debt of Thurrock. How is that to be dealt with? Now, the government at the moment kept quite quiet on that, so we're having to make cases making certain assumptions as to what would happen with that debt. And I can only assume that why Thurrock have come forward with the suggestion that they did, and it was only this morning that the Chief Executive and I learnt what that was, that if you look at what has come from Thurrock, they do appear to be trying to link with the more affluent districts, who I suppose is the reason why they think that the debt may be able to be shared accordingly. One thing I'm quite clear is, I don't think the people of Braintree should have to pick up the pieces from Thurrock. That's just me again. Other people may think, no, that's, we should do. So it is a complex situation, which I don't think can necessarily just be done by a vote. What we do need to do is to think through individually what we think, for those views to be conveyed so that it comes to Cabinet after the Council meeting in September, and then a decision is made. And as I say, it's an executive decision, so the Constitution rests with me, but I want to keep together with as many people. I have offered, and it has been accepted, to hold one-to-ones with the group leaders as we move forward, with Councillor Beavis and Councillor Jeffers and Councillor Pell, and then they can also feed back to their group. So I'm doing all I can to make sure that people feel, well, at least we have been consulted. And I say, at the moment, I am still open-minded as to what the answer should be. So I'm pleased that that the amendment to the motion has been accepted, because I think it covers the main areas that we've done. It does just, I think, put it more accurately, as Councillor Abbott suggested, that it adds more meat to the bones. There is some way to, there's some work still to be done. The time, though, is running short because we do have to hit the government deadline of the end of September. But there is a timeline which is quite clear, which will give all members of this authority the opportunity to input into the views of what they think this council should be doing. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Thorogood, as seconder of the motion and having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just quickly answer Councillor Edwards' comments about the Labour manifesto. I don't recall LGR and Devo being in it at all. It must have been on page 450 in 2 point or something, and I don't remember it being mentioned in TV debates or the news in the run-up to the general election. I don't believe people voted in Labour because of Devo and LGR. I think they did so to get rid of a terrible government after 14 years of failure. In January, Essex allowed a vote on devolution and LGR, and I was one of 14 council members that voted against it, and that was because of my concerns about the role of the mayor. I'm very worried about that. I think we could end up with a reform mayor next year, and that would be a disaster for Essex. I'm also concerned about competing views for LGR. We're only 2 months away from submitting our preferred number of unitary authorities, and it is likely that 2 or 3 cases will go forward. Basically, it seems to me that things are going too fast, and as the old adage says, marry in haste, repent in your leisure. I do think this is something we could regret if this isn't done right. And Councillor Butler mentioned, I think it could be X if it was down to him. Well, really, as far as Braintree is concerned, it will be down to him, because there's 160,000 people in the Braintree district, but you run a whip, you've got a cabinet, but really it comes down to you. Whatever you say, that would be the decision for Braintree. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abbott, as the proposer of the motion, you now may reply. Please can I remind you, though, that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard, and you should not introduce any new matters. So, Councillor Abbott, you may now respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members will be delighted to know I'm going to be very brief. It's nearly 9 o'clock. Thank you to Councillor Edwards, Jeffries, Van Dorken, Cunningham, Staines, Thorogood and Butland for taking part in the debate. It's been a very good debate. I'm not going to go, obviously, over what everyone said. I would pick up on what Councillor Thorogood said about Councillor Edwards' comments. That is quite a stretch to say that because we had a general election in 2024, members of this authority shouldn't be able to have a vote on the various bids. Quite an extraordinary stretch. But I wanted to concentrate on what Councillor Butland said. To be blunt, he was throwing up a lot of smoke there to try and sort of confuse the picture. He also said that he thought the motion was about a bid. Well, clearly it says it's plural. In fact, his own amendment is plural on business cases and submissions. So it's clearly about yes, we originally said the bid, but we accepted that bit. The core of this issue is about the vote on that. And Councillor Cunningham, he didn't reply to it. I don't know if you saw it. I sent him an email saying, we're happy with all of the rest of it. It's that bit about the vote. So it would have been, if the word vote had been kept in, on the 15th of September, this council would, all of the members here, would have a vote on the various bids, plural. Now, he says about, well, the evidence won't be there, but 15th of September is just before the Cabinet meeting. It's just before this council will make its submissions. So really this comes down to, is it the Cabinet members who in those very few days are going to have the decision, or can all the members of this authority at least have an indicative vote on those bids? I can't see any reason why we can't. Cabinet makes the final decision. We've already said we accept that constitutionally, and I really would ask him to reconsider. And at the end of the day, his Cabinet will vote as they vote, but why not every member of this authority be able to have an indicative vote on what is a momentous decision for this authority, indeed a decision which leads to the abolition of this authority and its replacement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. We will now take the votes. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate. All those against the motion, please indicate. And any abstentions?
Motion's carried.
Is that unanimous?
It is.
Yeah. That is unanimous. The motion has been approved. Thank you, members. We'll now proceed to agenda item 8, Earlscombe Neighbourhood Plan Adoption. So this report is set out on pages 7 to 12 of the agenda. And please can I invite Councillor Spray, Cabinet Member for Planning, to move the recommendation. Before you make your speech, I will need a seconder.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Members, the recommendation is set out on page 7 of the agenda, which is that the Earlscombe Neighbourhood Plan be made under section 38A, brackets 4 of the 2004 Act, and I so move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spray. Please can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Coulthard. Councillor Coulthard, do you wish to reserve your right to speak? Yes, please. Thank you. Councillor Spray, please may I invite you to speak now on this matter.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm very pleased to present this report to Council, particularly because it concerns the village where I've lived for over 25 years. The purpose is to seek Council's approval for the adoption of the Earlscombe Neighbourhood Plan. This plan, once agreed, can be used in the determination of planning applications within the Earlscombe neighbourhood area. Work on the neighbourhood plan started once this council formally designated that neighbourhood area, and that was back in March 2019. And as I have said on previous occasions when presenting similar reports, producing neighbourhood plans takes time, several years in fact, and a lot of effort. My thanks go to those members of the Parish Council who at the time worked hard to produce this document, and in particular I'd like to mention Tony Carlton, a former member of Earlscombe Parish Council, who took responsibility for production of this neighbourhood plan during that time and worked extremely hard on it. The plan, once drafted, was reviewed by an independent examiner who recommended several modifications and then confirmed that it met the necessary basic conditions and could proceed to referendum. That referendum was held on 3rd of July this year. 88.2% of those who voted were in favour of the neighbourhood plan. That was 434 votes in total. 11.8% or 58 residents voted against. I will just comment, Chairman, because I think I need to, on the turnout for this referendum, which was very low for a village the size of Earlscombe, where there are around 4,000 electors, and it is one of the district's key service villages. so a very low turnout. Unfortunately, in the immediate lead up to the referendum and in the days immediately before, the parish council in Earlscombe was not operational, and usually a parish council would heavily promote voting in a neighbourhood plan, not least because they spent a lot of time working on it. The comms team here at BDC put out as much information as they could. There was quite a lot on the local Facebook page about it, and I also spoke to and answered questions from residents who contacted me wanting a bit more information. But I do think the lack of an operational parish council at the time probably had an effect on the turnout. Notwithstanding that point, it was a decisive result, and therefore it is recommended that the Earlscombe neighbourhood plan is made and forms part of the development plan for Braintree District Council area, as already moved and seconded. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spray. Do any members wish to speak on this item? And if so, please indicate by showing your hand. Okay. So as no members have indicated that they wish to speak, I will now ask Councillor Courtauld, as seconder, having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to speak now? No, thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Courtauld. Councillor Spray, as proposed, do you wish to add anything else at this stage?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So the recommendation set out on page 8 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation, please indicate. All those against the recommendation, please indicate. Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendation has been approved. We will now proceed to agenda item 9, the member allowance scheme, reintroduction of the minor special responsibility allowance in July 2025. So this is set out on page 13 to 20 of tonight's agenda, and please can I now invite Councillor Butland, Leader of the Council, to move the recommendations. Before you make your speech, I will need to seek a seconder.
I formally move, Chairman.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder?
Formally seconded, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Tom Cunningham. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Reserve right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butland, please can I invite you to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Chairman. There are two separate issues in this paper. If I can deal with the one which all of us, I think, have freedom to talk on, that is the member allowance scheme annual increase. We determined at the couple of years ago that we would rely on the Office for National Statistics Public Sector Index for any increases between the major review undertaken by the IRP as we at the end of each four-year cycle, that we would use that for judging any increases in the meantime. Paragraph 8 shows that we have done that, and the Office for National Statistics Public Sector Index, which the figure for the 1st of April, which was published on the 10th of June, showed that the increase for 2025 was 5.6%, and accordingly the basic member allowance has been increased from 6372 to 6728.88, which again still leaves us roughly in the middle of the basic allowances for the 12 second-tier authorities across the county. And so that has been implemented. We're only asked to note that. It doesn't require any approval, and indeed members should have received that last Friday in their July reimbursement. The second issue is relating to a minor special responsibility allowance for the local plan. And here I think it was remiss of us not to have picked that up slightly earlier, as indeed we did when we had the last local plan several years ago, whereby there was an additional allowance for the chairman of the local plan committee and also for all members who sat on the local plan. That was a set amount similar to the way in which the allowances for any other committee like planning or licensing was done. I think this time, as I say, it was remiss that we didn't pick that up, and it is quite clear that for members on the local plan subcommittee, given the amount of work, there is a significant increase for those members. We have been able to see through, I think we've had 8 meetings now of the local plan on what we could probably say is the lighter side of what will be coming forward. And we are having brought before us, the members on that committee, significant weight of information which has to be read and absorbed, and meetings with the best will in the world. I think the longest one so far has gone on till 10 o'clock. I looked at Councillor Spray, but a significant amount of time, and there will undoubtedly, as made by the chair and the individual members of the LPSC, noting the similarities between the LPSC and those of licensing and planning committees. The IRP was in agreement with the introduction of the minor SRA for the local plan subcommittee as set out in the report. So it's not a fixed amount, it is dependent on attendance at meetings. I think what was I was able to demonstrate, and I think they were impressed at, was that the attendance at the local plan subcommittee, even before this, has been excellent. I think every meeting we have had a full turnout of members on, from all parties, and the deputy system appears to be working very well. So I think that it has gone in very good. But I think it only fair that we should not. I mean, if you worked out the pay per hour of reading the papers, etc., we're well below the minimum wage for that. This isn't a case of doing, but it's just an acknowledgement that most of the members of the local plan committee, their Thursday evenings, which sometimes now have previously been sort of evenings when you might be able to spend some time at home, have been taken up because of the necessity of doing this. And that was accepted unanimously by the members of the independent review panel. And so for that reason, Chairman, there are 4 recommendations. One, to note the IRP's considerations, to agree the reintroduction of a minor special responsibility allowance for members of the local plan as set out in 3.4 and 3.5. 3, to approve the budget allocation for the expected cost of the minor special responsibility allowance is set out in paragraph 8.1, which is to be met from general balances. And finally, to note the new member allowance scheme, which applies to everyone, as set out in Appendix A. And I so move the recommendations, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Your right to...
Chairman, I do apologise, your microphone was switched off.
Oh, sorry. So I'll repeat that. So no members have indicated that they wish to speak. Therefore, I will ask Councillor Cunningham as seconder. Having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to speak on this matter?
Nothing to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just before we do go to the vote, Councillor Butland, is there anything you'd like to add further? Thank you. So the recommendations set out on page 13 of the agenda that Councillor Butland has just referred to have been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendations, please indicate. Just bear with us for a second here, because I know people indicated earlier their wish to not indicate at this stage. All those against the recommendations, please indicate. And any abstentions?
Thank you, Chairman. The recommendation has been approved.
Okay, the recommendations have been approved. We will now proceed with agenda item 10, employee recognition. Members, the report for this item is set out on pages 21 to 24 of the agenda. As this item is to note, there is no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. So please can I invite Councillor Tom Cunningham, our Cabinet Member for Transformation, the Environment and Customer Services, to present this report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Rise to ask Council to note the updated, refreshed, recirculated employee recognition list of award winners, and once again acknowledge the excellent work of officers who have received special recognition, and thank them for their particularly meritorious service that led to their awards. Going forward, we actively encourage all members, if they see particularly excellent service from our officers and think that members of staff are worthy of additional recognition, to get in touch. We'll ask the HR department to recirculate how you go about acknowledging excellent performance from staff and putting potential staff up for recognition. We will do that following this meeting. But just to ask all our colleagues to note the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Okay, just 2 seconds. I'll start with Councillor Abbott. Thank you, Councillor Abbott.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly to say that as the main opposition group, we very much welcome this initiative and support it. And it's fabulous to see the very wide range of ways in which officers of this council go above and beyond to help residents.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome this report that's before us tonight and the report that was brought to us in June. I just wanted to stand to say a few words because I was one of the people that was very keen for this to be brought back to full council in regards giving credit to our wonderful officers that provide the services that our residents do enjoy. And I'm pleased to see that we've now got sort of names in the report, and that the two names tonight in regards sort of Rachel Rawlins and Kathy Carpenter. And we all know in this chamber that we congratulated Kathy Carpenter with her 45 years service in December last year, and also the graphics team in the first quarter. I'm pleased that the names got circulated today in the addendum report for the awards that have been given in the last year. I just wanted to commend 3 from my portfolio areas that I just wanted to mention. I have Tom Maguire from ICT, who was Employee of the Month in May 2024. Tom Williams, who was an Employee of the Month, the Corporate Performance Coordinator. Tom is the person that puts together, along with Tracy Headford, the performance reports that are brought to Cabinet and to scrutiny, and all the work that's involved in that is such great credit to this council, but also helpful for members. But also a special mention to Molly Gerard, who was the Employee of the Month in July 2024. One of the reasons I want to do a special mention to Molly is she is actually one of our apprentices. And Molly got the finished level 3 data technician apprenticeship in September last year, and I gave out some awards this year because she's actually progressed to level 6 on the social research apprentice, and a sort of special mention to Molly because getting an award as Employee of the Month across the whole of this organisation while being an apprentice, and anyone who's met Molly knows she is the most positive and most enthusiastic, one of the most positive and enthusiastic members of staff we've got, so just wanted to mention that. But I'm really pleased that this has come, and look forward to seeing this coming forward on a quarterly basis and celebrate the amazing staff that we've got at this authority. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowers. Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just to echo what colleagues have said, really good to see this coming out. I'm particularly pleased to see that 3 officers who help and support my portfolio are named in the report. Carolyn Johnson, who works on the planning policy team, who's done a marvellous job of helping pull together the information, some of which is quite complex, quite technical for the local plan. Amanda Wilkin, who has been working on biodiversity net gain, which is something still quite new, quite difficult to get your head around, but has been really supporting the development management team on that. And Neil Jones, Principal Planning Officer. I don't know what else you can say about Neil other than what's already in the report. He's an absolute star in the team. He's terrific, really is, and we are very, very lucky to have him, and actually to have all the officers mentioned. They do a great job. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. And Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, everything that's been said, I fully endorse. I mean, this morning I was daft enough through choice to be out walking my dogs in the pouring down with rain. But what I saw in Wickham High Street was the refuse team cleaning the bins, and they still smiled, they still come and stroke the dogs. They, as much as anybody else, and the many, many wonderful people that work within this organisation, is what makes it what it is. And everybody that puts on that Braintree badge is a credit to this organisation, and they all deserve the recognition that they get. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you. No, I fully agree with that. I think in my opening speech, I referenced the work of many of our organisations and volunteers, but our officers certainly, we don't realise how lucky we are to have. Councillor Abbott did make a reference that Neil Jones may not sleep. I think we've got many of our officers that I think would obviously go above and beyond many of the time. So I just feel we do need to appreciate. I really appreciate Councillor Cunningham for bringing that paper round again this evening, and I look forward to the next instalment to see which staff members we can celebrate next time. So, Councillor Cunningham, just before we note this report, is there anything you'd like to clarify?
Nothing else to add, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham. So, as this report is for noting, please indicate that this report has been noted by way of hands. Thank you very much, members. The report has been noted. So, members, this item concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance and participation at this evening's meeting, and those watching on the Council's YouTube broadcast. The recording of this meeting will be published on the Council's YouTube channel as soon as possible. And members, please can I remind that the next full Council meeting will be held on the 15th of September 2025 at 7:15 p.m. and calendar invites have been circulated. I will formally close this meeting of full Council at 9:24 p.m. So thank you very much, members. Have a good evening. Thank you.